Hello, BookTube. Britta Bowler made a video the other day that I thought was fantastic. It was uh, it was done to honor another booktuber, KathleenAnnBooks, who is having a milestone birthday. Britta seemed a little cagey on the subject, but seemed to imply that it was Kathleen's 30th birthday. And that is indeed a milestone. I am only 2 years away from it myself, so I know how that feels. Because Kathleen likes to read uh, nonfiction. Britta put together 5 nonfiction recommendations. For her video's title, she said favorites, and I guess that can be true, but you could do a list of favorite nonfiction books. It would be very, very long. It doesn't necessarily have to be your top favorite nonfiction books. But I was watching and was just fascinated. Just fascinated. I immediately wanted to make a response of my own, make a list as well for the birthday girl. Now, Britta mentioned Andrea Wolf's book, The Invention of Nature, uh, which was it's absolutely terrific. It got lauded everywhere. It's about uh, von Humboldt and his scientific discoveries, but it's so much more than that. Britta correctly, identifies it as being a great portrait of a founding figure in modern science. I thought that since she did that, I should probably do something like that for my own 5, as you'll see. But she also mentioned Pale Rider by Laura Spinney about the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. Or, if you're Donald Trump, the Spanish flu epidemic of 1917, which he said roughly 5,000 times during COVID-19, and no one ever corrected him. To his face, no one ever raised a hand and said, I know this is my one shot at a question at a press conference, and I know that I should be asking something that my bosses wanted to ask, but I have to ask, are you aware that you keep getting that date wrong? Has anyone bothered to inform you that you're the President of the United States and you keep saying that date wrong? I thought Laura Spinney's book was terrific. I reviewed it, I think, for The National in Abu Dhabi. So I couldn't help but second that recommendation on Britta's part. And if I seconded that one, well, her next one was A Distant Mirror by Barbara Turner. And of course I second that. I love that book. I made it the inaugural choice for the Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club. And we had a blast reading it. A great history of the 14th century, sort of centered on one man, but broadening out just amazingly, amazingly well. Britta also mentioned something about Rebecca Hall called Wake that I have not read. But the last thing she mentioned was Sea People by Christina Thompson, which is very, very good. If you can get yourself a cheap trade paperback online, give it a try, because it is just bracingly preconception clearing history. Bracingly so. Really good picks on Britta's part. So I thought I would do the same thing. I'd give you 5 nonfiction books to think about and maybe to recommend to you. Some of them have been on my channel before. I don't know that all of them have been. The first one is this one by Elizabeth Jenkins. This is The Princes in the Tower. And this is that much vexed story about the 2 heirs of King Edward IV and what happened to them. Edward IV dies. His brother Richard, Duke of Gloucester, takes command of the army and the mint. And his political enemies in London start to fear for their lives and beg for sanctuary. And the most helpless pawns on that chessboard are the 2 boys. Now, I myself don't think there's any mystery involved here. So I'm trying to be gentle here. I made my case about this. If I can remember, I'll leave a link to it down below. I told you a story of what I think happened here. I think it is absolutely self-evident. if you have an unhinged warlord from the north of England who has 2 tiny boys between him and being king of England, the 2 tiny boys are going to disappear and they're never going to be seen again. And it's not going to be some generational, lifelong historical mystery. It's going to be that he had them killed. But nevertheless, it is still a vexed subject. There are a lot of books on the subject out there. Probably in your used bookstore you've seen the book by Alison Weir. This is the one to get. This is by far the most intelligent and most comprehensive one. Also the most beautifully written. So that's my my first choice here is The Princes in the Tower. I know where I stand on the subject. I'll leave you a link. Quite a few of you liked the little history lesson that I gave you of what I think happened. I'll leave a link to that down below. My next one is by the great Susan Jacoby. And this is Strange Gods. And it's a history of conversion. What does it mean to change your gods? What does that mean? What record do we have of that in the past? Of course, the cover is the most famous conversion in history. Saul being struck from his horse by a blinding white light on the road to Damascus. We presume that Saul worshipped, I don't know, Roman gods? Yahweh? He certainly didn't worship Jesus before and then after he did. So, but this is about more than that. And this author is wonderful. I will give her a mulligan for her little book on baseball. Anybody can have a moral failing. The rest of her stuff is amazingly good. Just amazing. I'm always a little bit mortified that she isn't better known. And Strange Gods is just incredible. It won't do much for your untethered religious faith to watch these things being swapped like garments at a fair, but it'll make you think. It really will. Even some of the conversion stories from history that you think you know, she goes over them again wonderfully. Then this next one it's history. It's history in a way. It's the first draft of history. A couple of things on my list are the first draft of history. Book reviews and book essays. Book reviews are historical documents. They are the contemporary reactions of writers to the books coming out at the time. Right? What would historians not give for a 400-page compendium of original book reviews from 1515? That would be an invaluable historical document. So I'm including a book review collection here. It's my list, after all, and I am a book reviewer. And it's not a name that you will often see on this channel. It's Joyce Carol Oates. This is her book, Uncensored, which is terrific. It's a collection of her literary essays, her literary reviews, and whatnot. And it taps, as I've mentioned many times before, it taps a voice of hers that her fiction, for all of it, does not capture. It's just, she sounds a little different when she's doing this, and I think that's fascinating. So I wanted to include some book reviews here. Then my next choice here is a little bit of a fudge because it's many books. It's really I'm recommending an author, and the author is Elizabeth Drew, who wrote contemporary dispatches about the American politics of her day that are incredible. She collected them into many, many books, and they're all worth reading. You don't have to be me, who lived through all of this and was eagerly lapping it up and writing dispatches of my own. You don't have to be a political American history junkie of the 20th century, like, for instance, the late lamented David Murphy. You can be just anybody, and you will find this fascinating because of how good a job she does. I put a few covers here. This is her bicentennial book, American Journey. But I also have Politics and Money, which is really, really good, only barely dated. One of the books of hers that I struggled with the most, but in retrospect, I really like it. If I found a copy at the Brattle Bookshop, I'd grab it instantly. On the Edge, her book about the Clinton presidency. Really, the more I think about it, the more I look back on it, one of the most perceptive books ever written about the Clinton presidency. I think I have one more of hers just to even things out. Yes, her Washington Journal about Watergate. This is her Watergate book, which she had been telling her friends. Her friends had been asking. Her friends had been asking forever and ever, is there going to be a Watergate book? When is the Watergate book? And this is dispatches from the front lines of Watergate. But really anything. Her books are so good. They're just so good. And I think she's entirely gone. I think she's entirely out of print. So you would have to find one of these things used. But I wanted her to be on my list. And then I will finish up my list with a call out to Britta's book about Humboldt, about the invention of nature, where she's looking at a foundational figure in modern science. I want to do the same thing. This is Susan Quinn. This is her absolutely amazing biography of Marie Curie. Absolutely amazing. So I think before this I'd read 2 other Curie biographies, and they were very similar in that they treated Marie Curie as some sort of disembodied intellect from the planet Mars. And this book doesn't do that at all. It thoroughly, as one critic put it, I think for an old paper in Cincinnati, one critic said it thoroughly enfleshes her, but without pulling her down at all. In fact, fleshing out the details of her normal life only makes you realize more what a towering figure she was. What a towering and absolutely daring figure she was. The archaeologists who traveled out into the American Southwest and risked being tortured by the Apache or scorched to death and dying of thirst in the American desert, they didn't have anything on Marie Curie. For how she was fearless, physically fearless, and also brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I would love to find a copy of this book, but I wanted to round out my nonfiction favorites with this, because in case you're wondering, in case you're curious about Marie Curie, but you don't know which book to get, this one, hands down. So there you go. That's for Kathleen Ann Books. I'll leave a link to Kathleen Ann Books' channel. But if she's having a milestone birthday, I should get in on the fun as well. Those are 5 nonfiction, 5, 4, and an author that I wholeheartedly recommend. And, you know, it's not at all too late for you to get in on the act. Feel free, first of all, to go to Kathleen's channel and subscribe, but then, too, to wish her a happy birthday if you are a content creator by making your own list of top 5 nonfiction books. I'd be happy to see it. I'm sure she would be. Britta, who knows? If Britta's in the middle of a heat wave, nothing's going to make her happy. Anyway, that's my response video. It was so much fun to do. I could do one of these every day. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, Britta.